today's event is the series of webinars that we have been having since we have been forced to work from home and to actually change the way we do things. I welcome you all. And I want to let you know that NAPE is alive and well. NAPE is working. We are locked down, but we are not locked in. All our programs are going on. Yesterday, we were blessed to have a virtual technical meeting that was very well received. We thank all our sponsors that are working tirelessly to see that the NAPE's ideals are kept alive. And I want to let you know that our conference is coming up in November. It's going to be virtual. We have a lineup of fantastic activities that you need to look forward to. Please go to our website. We have a conference website, www.conference@nape.org.ng, and also at www.nape.org.ng. You will get all the information you need. Please be part of it. Without further ado, I would like to let you know about our chief, our speaker of today. Like I mentioned, he is Chief Timipre Sylva. He was born in July 1964, and he is happily married to Mrs. Alayingi Sylva. She was the former First Lady of Bayelsa State. Of course, you know, our minister was also the former governor of Bayelsa. They are blessed with children. We thank God for that. Chief Sylva went to the University of Port Harcourt, and he graduated with distinction in linguistics in 1986. In 1992, he was elected into the House of Assembly as a member to represent Brass constituency in the old Rivers states. That was in 1992. Thereafter, by 2002, he was appointed as a special advisor on political matters to the former governor of Bayelsa State, that is Chief DSP Alayemi Sega, and he resigned. After which he was appointed as a special advisor to Dr. Edmond Dakoru, who was our energy chief. That was in year 2004. By this time, Chief Sylva has shown a lot of interest in politics. And with that, he became the PDP governorship candidate in 2006, after coming second in the primaries. Goodluck Jonathan, the eventual winner, was to be President Umari Yar'Adua's VP, running mate. And so he got the ticket. And he was elected in 2007. His governorship, however, was truncated when the appeal court nullified his election in April 2008. You can see that Chief Sylva has run through the gamut of what it takes to be a seasoned politician, a seasoned Democrat, a seasoned a technocrat in this industry, because he's weathered all kinds of storms and he's come out on top. By 2008 in May, he won a fresh election and he was sworn in. A lot of things happened, but by 2013, when APC was starting all over again, gaining ground, he joined as a formative member, and he has been a leader of APC in Bayelsa State since 2013. He contested for the senatorial seat in 2015, and he eventually became the APC governorship standard candidate for the election of 2015. However, in 2008, he was appointed chairman of the board of the Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority of Nigeria, OGFZA, and he was also the pioneer chair of the Maritime University in Okenrekoko. In 2019, he was appointed Minister of State for Petroleum Resources by our president, Muhammadu Buhari, and that is a position he has held till date. In all this time, he has steered the ship of our industry for the gains and the successes that we have achieved so far. Other things will come up during this talk. I will turn this over to Lateef to give us his view on things right now.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I think we have some small data signal issues, but we will weather that storm because we've weathered even worse things. Thank you very much, my president-elect. Thank you very, very much. Now, it's my honor to be here. Like I said earlier on, what we have to discuss is very, very important. And for that reason, that's why we brought in the person that actually drives and pushes policy under the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and that is Chief Timipre Sylva. In addition to that, to ensure that we have the most robust conversation, the most insightful conversation, we have also decided to bring in one of our own, a member of NAPE, a former DPR director, to moderate this event. It's my pleasure to introduce another geologist, someone who has spent over 4 decades in the industry, is currently the country chairman of the Energy Institute and the CEO of Energy Talks Limited. I'm talking about no other person than the chairperson of the consultants that worked on the PIB, as we know it, and spent a lot of time shaping and drafting that bill as consultants to the National Assembly. Again, let me welcome Mr. Austin Olorunshola. Mr. Olorunshola, are you there, sir?
Thank you, Lateef.
All right, excellent. We can't see your video yet. All right. Mr. Olorunshola, welcome. Welcome to the show. My PE, at this point, we will excuse you. Thank you, ma. Okay, so as we speak, one of the things I need to share with the audience is the agenda for the day and how we plan to run through the day. Our rules have not changed. We are a technical association, so the focus will be around technical conversations that will move the industry forward, commercial conversations that will move the industry forward, and things of that nature, policy and strategy. Those are the conversations we want to have today. We will not entertain questions around politics. We will not encourage questions around religion or things of that nature. The focus, again, is technical, commercial, and strategy and policy type discussion. Having said that, we would entertain about 10 to 15 minutes of the minister's speech. He will give us a run through around current happenings in the industry. That will take 10 to 15 minutes. Once it's done with that, the next step will be for the moderator, Mr. Austin Olorunshola, to take the reins and start to ask clarification questions, and then we'll start to entertain questions from the audience. We have upgraded our Zoom platform to the Zoom webinar, so all questions will be through the Q&A prompt. Please, I repeat, all questions through the Q&A prompt. We will not take questions through the chat. Again, questions through the Q&A prompts. Having said that, I don't know if Mr. Olorunshola will say a word or two before we invite the minister.
So thank you very much, Lateef. And if I may, let me also say a very good late morning to our Honorable Minister, as well as all our colleagues who have joined in this morning. I have been asked, like you've just been told, to moderate this segment of today's program. But please just let me quickly say, it also gives me a very great pleasure to welcome once again our beloved Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Chief Timipre Sylva, even as we will shortly yield the air to him to address this session. Within the fundamentals required to drive businesses in our sector, fiscal regime design is one of the most important factors usually considered for investment decisions. It speaks to revenues, how they are shared, how they are made, and most importantly, the fairness of the sharing and whether growth can happen, and if so, even sustained. Ultimately, fiscal regime designs boil down to assessment of government take versus investment returns to the investors. And depending on the fiscal architecture, it can actually attract or even deter new investments, whether projects can actually really happen and even dictate overall returns. More often than not, host governments actually aim to maximize rents for their countries over time, globally, while achieving all their developmental as well as socioeconomic objectives. But investors, on the other hand, of course, aim to ensure that they have very robust returns on their investment. Now, to reconcile these polarities or these differences, which are usually often conflicting objectives with cleverly designed fiscal regimes, is all usually not very simple and can sometimes be really, really complex. And really, this is the topic for today, which Latif has actually already mentioned. We know very well for about a year, the Honorable Minister, Chief Timipre Sylva, has championed a rework of the PIB. And as at yesterday, I'm sure we all read that the fact that the bill itself is actually getting to completion and probably going to be forwarded for Mr. President's blessing any moment from now, before it is transmitted to the National Assembly for its legislative journey. So NAPE, probably I will say, will be the first platform to taste, or at least even to smell, this very delicious meal that has been recooked in the PIB. And we take this with very great humility and thanks to the Honorable Minister to actually allow us to use this platform for that.
One quick question, sir, and I think it's something we should also share. In terms of context,
yes,
right? The PIB has been in the working for about almost since 2000, 2003, depending on what you use as your benchmark, right?
Yeah.
Give or take 17 years, right?
Wow,
so from your perspective, right, what are the immediate things to look out for that will change instantly once that bill is passed?
So really, and thanks, Latif, for asking that. So the reform itself actually started in April 2000. So you could very much say it's 20 years old. But in terms of legislation, the first bit of it actually started getting into the public space since 2008. So which would make it about, say, 12 years ago. So really, what this has cost, and you know very well, because of the kind of business we run in the oil and gas sector, is a very long-term business because of the intensity of both technology, but also investments. It takes a long time to actually get returns back. So really what you always require is a real clear line of sight, basically, especially when it comes to fiscals, but of course, all the other aspects of legislation. So two key things for me that have been completely very much missing in our sector, and I would say for at least 12 years. One is the fact that there has been big uncertainty in the system. That is, we just didn't know what will happen. And once you have that situation, it's always very difficult for people to spend on a long-term basis. Basically, what people then try to do is you do the one that will give you your returns very quickly and then you move off. But that's really not the way to manage petroleum resources. The second big thing that has also happened over this period is the fact that quite a lot of legislation are changing in the industry. Okay, so there's a lot of obsolescence, about what we really have. So these two key things basically are the big things that certainly is going to happen as soon as the minister gets through this complete hurdle that has befallen us for a very, very long time. And I say again, we are most grateful to actually really be in this position. We would have loved to be there 12 years ago, but fine, we're where we are, and we're all ears listening to our minister this morning. Lateef, are you there? Lateef, you are frozen. Lateef, can you hear me? Okay, all right. So while we await Lateef to join us, maybe on that note of gratitude, I would like to then invite our Honorable Minister to please feed his professional constituency with all the goodies in the fiscal provisions that we're expecting to happen to the industry. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, thank you very much again for joining us. Good morning.
Okay. Hello. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. We can hear you.
Kindly pardon us because the minister is actually on his way from another program. Yeah, so he's he had a board meeting this morning, so he's rushing down here because of this, please. So just kindly bear with us a bit.
Oh, okay. So, thank you for the update.
No problem.
All right. So I believe at this point we can continue to set the background and the context for the conversation we're going to have. And one of the things is we've decided to break things into about 4 parts. We're going to start with looking at things around the policy and the policy direction. You know, what's the policy direction, especially recovering from such a very, very chronic and shocking oil price crash, and which happened simultaneously with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. From your perspective, what do you think would you suggest, or would you be looking out for from the minister as regards policy direction, not just to recover from the issues and challenges that has come as a combination of both the pandemic and the oil price crash, but also in setting us up for being competitive in the oil and gas space? What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, I mean, for me, I think first and foremost, from the policy side of things, the minister himself actually rolled out 9 key policy objectives late last year. I personally have been following them because they are actually the right things to really drive. And quite a lot of them have actually been achieved, I must really say. So for sure, the first thing we'll be looking at is indeed those policy directions and policy actions. How far have we really particularly gone with them? Knowing fully well that COVID-19 has seriously disrupted even the whole implementation phase. But like I said, even with that, there's quite a lot already on the table as far as achievements are concerned. Then the second and very important aspect, one will certainly be expecting to hear from the Honorable Minister. It's what then will then be the fiscal levers, post all the happenings in the last, say, 121 and 50 days. What then will be the big fiscal levers that will actually unleash our industry? Knowing fully well that we've been comatose for quite a while, but has even been worsened by COVID-19. It would be nice to hear, and not just in our traditional A&P or upstream business. I think more and more we need to begin to see what then do we do with the midstream, and then what then do we really do? How do we enable the business really, even in the downstream, basically going forward? On a short-term basis, I'll be expecting, and I will ask the minister if he also has some ideas, because really the industry itself, the operators are bleeding, no doubt about that, and it would be nice to know if the Honorable Minister has some ideas or some thoughts around some bit of palliatives for this industry. Palliatives are not just for other people, and knowing fully well the importance of what we bring, apart from the platform of NAPE really finding oil and gas, but the generality of the industry itself, basically making sure production happens and revenues get accrued to government. It would be nice to know if the minister has some ideas around palliatives for our sector, which I think is very.
I think you just hit a very sensitive nerves, especially amongst the independents in the country. They will be looking out for things around how does these policies or the policy direction or regulations will ease the impact of what they've endured in the last 5 or 4 months, and that would be very interesting to hear. But when you look at the value chain, it wouldn't exist if not for exploration. And we cannot argue that exploration literally has been the foster child of the industry, because once you are cash strapped, the last thing you're looking at is exploration. Right now, it would be very good to know, especially as an insider when it comes to the bill itself, the PIB or the PIGB bill. Is there anything in that bill that speaks specifically to exploration, encourages exploration? Because I think we ran some numbers, back of the envelope numbers at the TIC-TAC inauguration committee, and we suggested, give or take 49, 50 years, we will run out at the rate of production right now in the country. Do you have thoughts around that, sir?
Well, thank you, Latif. And really, if I balance it, on my energy platform, looking at the mix, I really worry even more so for oil and gas exploration. I mean, if you've been following the news in the last couple of weeks, most of the big boys, all of them, have been writing down a lot of reserves. Now, these are proven reserves, proven volumes. If proven volumes are being written off from books, what then happens to our frontiers that are really prolific? Both in the deep offshore as well as even in the inland basins. So I'm really worried because if we don't do something, if the new set of laws don't do something to help us to actually unlock all these resources, and very, very quickly, because I think a sense of urgency really is actually the main thing that should be on the table of this bill, is how quickly can we completely really unlock these resources to make, and I think even the GMD mentioned that last Saturday when we had the session on the communal discussions. We need a sense of urgency, both from the exploration side, development side, but actually to make sure that we really, really monetize these resources, and very, very quickly too, because of the competing forces within the energy space. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I remember at the June edition of our webinar, when we were privileged to have the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, he clearly stated his radar, one of his primary focus was having $10 per barrel OPEX. He didn't miss words. It was very direct, and so with clear mandates like that, that helps everybody, understand what the direction is. But again, you start to worry, because when you look at the deep water environment, for instance, we have Bonga South, Bonga North, there we have Bossy South, Bossy North. Egina is already online, but we still have Bolia, Chota, we have Ewadoro, we got Owowo, Uge, Insiko. When we roll up these numbers, they're not small numbers. We're talking about over 3 billion in discovered resources. This is not hypothetical. These are resources that are already discovered. Anywhere else in the world, they'll be jumping over themselves on how best to, mature these exploration finds, which are massive. They are literally massive. So the question is this: are we actually posturing from a policy perspective to attract investments? Because when you look at our PSC terms, the ones that have really been executed more or less, or that are active, are pre-2000, most of them. So are we really going forward with the right policies? Because it's not about sounding good, it's about the results. And so far, the results don't really look as commensurate to all the hard work that's been done. What are your thoughts around that, Sam?
Okay, so again, I want to believe that there's a lot of effort going forward to actually, if you like, unlock all these big opportunities that we've completely missed in the past. The truth is that the kind of level of investment, money you actually really, really require to unlock these big ticket items you've just itemized, it's not resident in this country. You have to bring in global resources to unlock them. Now, for it to happen, it means you must be competitive, because all the guys who have the monies in their pockets, that's basically what they're looking for. Now, competitiveness is not just on the fiscal scale. It's also, it's all embracing, So really, we just have to try as much as possible to make sure that policy-wise, but also legislation that actually gives teeth to the policies, move us in this particular direction where we're not just even being competitive, we're actually preferred. We're actually preferred going forward, and really. That is really what I'm looking towards, especially from the point of view of when I look again at the 9 key policy objectives of the honorable ministers since late last year, very lofty objectives. But the next set of things you now want to hear is that, do we then have the legislation to back them up, to then make them really, really happen? If we have a handshake between our policies and the legislation, oh my God, that's really what we're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, and the NAPE president, Mr. Alex Nachitaka, is actively pursuing providing the appropriate platform so we can do some advocacy with the National Assembly. Because at the end of the day, there are few industries that effectively invest with an outlook of about 15 years, especially if it's a gas play, before they start to break even. There are few industries that are set up that way. And the oil industry, especially upstream oil industry, is primarily set up that way. Apart from when you're playing in the really smaller portions like the marginal field round, which we will probably talk about that later with the minister. But let's move further downstream towards the midstream. Gas. It's the most exciting thing in the country in the last, I would say, 7-10 years. It's all about gas commercialization. How far have we gone? What kind of policies should we be looking at? Have we really progressed as far as we can? Is LNG the only success story, and 1 or 2 companies putting in gas into the downstream, into dumb gas? Again, I'd like to share your thoughts on how we would like to engage the minister on that.
Okay, I think in my own perspective, I think for the fact that even the Honorable Minister has declared this 2020 as even a year of gas, optically and otherwise, for me, it's a big thing. Because basically he has brought everybody into a particular one focus, okay? And said, whatever happens in this gas space, we have to crack it. Even in the last 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks,
yes,
I've been following the minister's movement. Despite COVID, he has been one gas action or the other, apart from the whole flare gas commercialization program, which I am aware has gone pretty matured in terms of how they really wanted to move it forward. Last week, I also saw the minister actually declaring a gas hub open in Bayelsa, some kind of manufacturing of cylinders is going to happen from Polaco, and all that. So it's not just about saying it is a year of gas, but we're actually seeing actions around it. But again, I go back. The big thing about gas is then going to happen when we then see this legislation around gas. What are the big fiscal levers? What will pricing look like? Okay.
I've been waiting for you to say that. I've been waiting for you to say that.
No, I'm not to. What would it look like? Also, especially because of the issues around, our Naira dollar exchange, and all that. Will pricing be dollar based, or is it going to be dollar linked? Those are all the things we really want to see basically going forward. How free will the system be? Again, about 2 weeks ago, there was a big launch of the gas network code. These are
yes,
all.
that's a big deal.
These are all the pieces you really require to make all this happen. I will say we're in the right direction, but like I said, let's wait for this food that has been cooked. I can smell it. It's smelling really good. but let's see it on the table. Yeah.
I think a lot of people would like to spend what you're spending, sir. Right. So the thing is, I don't think we can have the conversation with the minister without talking about gas pricing. I think it's something we should dive into some more, and we'll wait for him to show up. Again, we apologize to everybody. As we analyze the direction in which we will engage the minister, we are in contact with his people. We all understand that the oil and gas industry and the minister for that industry is essentially very critical to our nation. Again, we apologize, just some things that were not the schedule came up and he had to attend to them because they were that high national priority. But back to the conversation we're having with Mr. Austin Olorunshola, former DPR director and chairman of the Institute of Energy in the country. Sir, when you move downstream, the average Nigerian really doesn't care about all the intricacies and complexities that comes with the logistics with serving, whether it's gasoline or diesel or even aviation fuel for our planes. What they want to do is see that there is no break in that transmission of those products. When you step up a little, the conversation comes hovers around refineries, especially with the conversation about 6 weeks ago in the papers around the refineries and how much it has cost to run them. At the end of the day, what policy direction should we be looking at as regards downstream? Because it's not just about serving the people. We need, and I think I need to borrow from your phrase, it's not about being competitive. We need to be, the choice position, not just upstream, but downstream also. Because to have the most effective industry, you want to integrate. So what do you think we should be looking at around downstream?
From policy side of things, this country got on a very fantastic trajectory very many years ago, 30, 40 years ago, that led us to, as a country, into even self-sufficiency in the downstream, in the petroleum product. I'm sure very many people are not even aware that this country, Nigeria, we were exporting crude oil, we were exporting diesel, we were exporting PMS up till 1992, after self-sufficiency. All that happens because of a policy trajectory that, and a lot of that was even driven by both the ministry as well as the then NNPC. So we've done it before. It's nothing new. So we have to get back to that same position where, first and foremost, we have full self-sufficiency, okay, for all our citizens, whether the population is 200 or 200 plus, it doesn't really matter. We must have that self-sufficiency. But beyond that, the world is changing today, whereby quite a lot of things, not just gas, as we know it being a regional play, probably is also going to be so for petroleum products. And so why can't we as a nation then simply capture the African market? You have the raw materials. So why can't we just do that? So while we're trying to see what we can do with the NNPC refineries that are moribund, if you put it that way, we should then encourage new ones. And thank God the Dangote ones I hear is moving pretty well. But beyond that, probably the best way to go is small is better. which is basically what we are now seeing with modular refineries. And I have been supporting one or two in the last 18 months. And I can tell you, within the next 1 month or two, you'll be hearing 2 refineries will be fully commissioned in this country. Why can't we have 15, 20, 30 of that? That's really what we need, you know. Then we can then fully say you have self-sufficiency, not just in terms of availability, but also even in terms of closeness to markets around the country. So it circles all the transportation or logistics hurdles we actually have, but then move out of the country to the extent that we actually capture all the markets that hitherto were said to be markets that smuggling used to attract. So just turn that smuggling market to real market. That's as simple as that, you know.
Well, so I definitely agree with you. There are a lot of conversations out there around Nigeria being strategically positioned, not just geographically, but in regards oil and gas, for being the hub, not just upstream. This will involve a lot of multilateral and bilateral agreements across the continent. And I think we are well positioned to have those conversations. We do have goodwill across the continent. Having said that, I can see the Honorable Minister is setting up. We will let him set up and as we talk. But one thing that happened at the last event we had was funding and financing. And the conversation was about setting up an oil and gas bank, because the kind of capital expenditure that is required, the independents require about 20 billion, they got about 5 billion last year. And the IOC's requirements are even in the mid 50s to mid $150 billion. We don't have that capacity. We just don't have that capacity. What are your thoughts around that as we allow the Honorable Minister to settle in?
Yeah, I mean, and I listened to that that session by Chief Afolabi on Saturday. Again, I fully resonate with that. I think it's even getting a little bit late. Remember, we started with 4 or 5 major IOCs in the country. And those were the only operators for a very, very long time. Today, we have over 40 operators, okay? So those 5 are still there, but then have a lot of independents, indigenous people, which the country, from policy objectives, actually made sure they actually really then happen. But the problem is more and more, and as we go forward, funding or financing is really going to be completely really difficult. So indeed, if you want that policy to be sustained in terms of indigenization of oil and gas, and actually even expanding it to other things, we then need to think creatively about how that financing is going to happen. So indeed, I really support that. And I would like to also welcome the Honorable Minister to this August session in August. Honorable Minister, good morning, sir.
Thank you very much. I truly apologize for coming late. I was in another meeting. I couldn't get myself out of it in time. Sorry about that.
All right, so thank you. We're happy to have you here. Again, we are very, very honored and privileged to have you, especially at this time. As let's set the ground rules again. Good morning, everybody. My name is Abdul Latif Amodu, the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists Publicity Secretary. Today, we have the privilege of having the steward of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, is Honorable Chief Timipre Sylva. We'll be having a very robust conversation today, and the rules still remain the same. The conversation will be about fiscal regime design, government revenues, and investors' interest in Nigeria oil and gas sector. Our moderator today is our esteemed NAPE member, the former director of DPR, Mr. Austin Olonshola. The rules remain the same. Please send in your questions through the Q&A prompt. We just want technical, commercial, policy, and regulatory related questions. We will not be taking anything political. We know our minister is adept in political issues and matters, well experienced and vast. But the focus today is oil and gas. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Austin Olonshola. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Latif. And again, Honorable Minister, welcome. And because of time, I'll just say on behalf of NAPE, I'd like to invite you to simply address your constituency. After that, we'll take some 30, 40 minutes of questions and answers. And then you'll have another, say, 5 minutes to wrap up before we do a vote of thanks. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning, Honorable Minister. Over to you.
Thank you very much, President and members of the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, distinguished MDs, CEOs, COOs, captains of industry. Thank you very much, the facilitator and moderator of today's event, distinguished participants. Good morning, good afternoon. It is indeed a great honor to be invited as guest speaker at the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists August 2020 webinar series with the theme Fiscal Regime Design, Government Revenues, and Investors' Interests in Nigeria Oil and Gas Sector. Indeed, the theme is quite relevant today as it was a few months ago. The business environment has been quite challenging for our industry, the nation, and the entire world. Current global economic outlook occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic is predicted to create a recession, which will, according to IMF, result in a decline of 4.9% of world GDP in 2020. Even if acceptable vaccines are developed in 2021, we already hear that vaccines are being developed in Russia, it may take 2 or more years to recover from this recession. We might be grappling with low oil demand and therefore low prices for the rest of 2020 and afterwards. At the same time, the oil and gas industry is facing increased competition from expanding and ever cheaper renewable resources. As an example, the French electricity company, EDF, and other partners signed in Abu Dhabi a 30-year solar energy supply agreement of 3,200 megawatts for a power purchase agreement price of $1.35 per kilowatt, or about 5 naira per kilowatt. The future role of natural gas in electricity generation may be challenged as renewable energy begins to compete with gas for power generation. In the long term, green hydrogen derived from electrolysis may start to replace natural gas and petroleum products in a variety of sectors if the cost of producing green hydrogen falls below $2 per kg. The Paris Agreement on Climate Change in 2015 has added urgency with respect to the elimination of fossil fuels, and as a result, the European Union, South Korea, Chile, and many other nations are now taking action to become carbon neutral by 2050. These developments have increased future uncertainties in the petroleum industry. It is a wake-up call for Nigeria to increase efforts to reduce our dependence on oil. We must rejig our petroleum industry and energy framework in order to chart a new course. The petroleum industry bill that we propose will, I believe, provide this new framework. In order to secure the future of the petroleum industry in Nigeria, fiscal and other terms must be based on a more conservative economic outlook. A framework must be created for the Nigerian petroleum industry to grow and invest in additional petroleum production, even under difficult economic conditions. This conservative economic outlook is based on a long-term oil price of around $50 per barrel in constant dollar terms. It is assumed that on a worldwide basis, peak oil production will occur by 2030 and peak gas production by 2040. By 2050, the world oil production will be considerably less than today. In cognizance of the foregoing, we are not unmindful that the industry players are of the view that the current level of taxation on onshore and shallow water operations is excessive, and therefore the proposed petroleum industry bill should include a significant lowering of these taxes for new investments and for existing operations. Also, a lowering of royalties is contemplated, particularly for low levels of production per field. It is therefore our hope that the future is more positive and attractive for the Nigerian petroleum industry after the passage of the PIB. In the short term, the government will need a maximum fiscal environment to deal with the COVID-19 crisis. For this reason, we are proposing in the new law a grandfathering. This, I believe, will preserve current government take while also guaranteeing investors' returns. It also guarantees that investors can continue with existing operations while earning favorable returns. The proposed PIB framework shall be based on core principles of clarity, dynamism, neutrality, open access, and fiscal rules of general application. At the same time, investments in new acreages will be encouraged with attractive competitive terms in order to achieve economic growth. Investors in existing assets will be able to sign conversion contracts to obtain better terms for existing production and be able to explore and produce parts of the existing blocks under the new terms. Investors that also want to continue operating under current fiscal terms can elect to do so. I already mentioned that. Host communities will be adequately covered to foster sustainable prosperity within the communities, provide direct social and economic benefits from petroleum operations to the host communities. Accelerating the growth of the Nigerian economy cannot be done effectively without connecting all Nigerians to electricity. Nigeria has favorable conditions to bring electricity to all Nigerians at modest costs compared to many other nations. A large share of the massive gas reserves of 203 TCF can be produced at reasonable cost. Therefore, a significant network of additional gas pipelines need to be constructed to connect all major economic centers of Nigeria to natural gas. The initiation of the construction of the AKK pipeline is the first important step in this direction. The development of an optimal framework for electricity generation based on natural gas will create a strong basis for providing electricity to all Nigerians. Economic growth can be enhanced by stimulating the growth of gas-based industries based on increased gas production and a stable and predictable gas pricing framework, which is attractive for such industries compared to gas pricing in many other countries. Nigeria will be able to attract further investment in the growth of these industries. Industry must be aware of government's effort at stabilizing gas pricing with the inauguration a few weeks ago of a gas pricing committee currently at work. The PIB will also provide a wide variety of features to ensure that natural gas makes the optimal contribution. To encourage the production of natural gas, the proposed bill establishes an attractive fiscal framework for associated and non-associated gas. For gas production, the fiscal terms will ensure low royalty and corporate income tax and lower a variety of other small taxes and levies. Producers and consumers alike can agree on gas pricing on a willing buyer, willing seller basis. However, special protections are built in to ensure supplies to wholesale customers of strategic sectors, which are the power sector, gas-based industries, and commercial sector with significant offtake possibilities. The proposed bill will establish a gas-based price that is higher than current levels to producers, and this base price will increase over time. This price level should be sufficiently attractive to increase gas production significantly, since this gas price is comparable to gas prices in other emerging economies with significant gas production. This gas price will be independent of all gas price or LNG export prices, and is therefore a stable basis for enhanced domestic gas development regardless of international oil and LNG developments. The proposed bill establishes a flexible and comprehensive framework for midstream gas development. Gas pipelines and gas processing plants can be built for own account of the investor, with provisions for third-party access or open access. In addition, a midstream gas infrastructure fund is being proposed in the PIB with a narrow focus of assisting private investment in the development of the necessary infrastructure to process gas and transport it by pipeline. The National Gas Expansion Program is conceived and designed to serve as a catalyst for adding value to the vast natural gas reserves Nigeria is endowed with. Identification of existing policy, legal and regulatory framework, and commercial instruments that are hindering the development of the local gas sector, reforming and implementing the promotion of a market structure in a manner that will ensure the utilization of gas infrastructure, assets, and facilities on a common carrier and co-sharing basis. Formulate strategies that will promote cost-effective distribution of the various gas streams by marine, rail, and road for achieving a most affordable and available, acceptable, and accessible gas to Nigerians. Thus contributing to just job creation and human capital development through new investment in the gas subsector. All these are being considered with the involvement of other stakeholders under deepening the domestic LPG penetration, auto gas, CNG, and LNG for automobiles and other prime movers, compressed natural gas for electricity and gas-based industries revitalization. Substituting traditional white products with gas will cushion the effect of deregulation and create enormous job opportunities for Nigerians. To conclude, I just say that COVID-19 pandemic has indeed taken a toll on the global oil and gas industry with cascading impacts to other sectors. The Petroleum Industry Bill will provide a framework for increased petroleum industry activities in terms of developing gas for the domestic market and increasing oil production under competitive terms, and support the goal of a stronger non-oil economy for the benefit of Nigerians and investors. Consequently, we are developing strategic survival measures. We have also designed fiscal terms in the proposed PIB based on a conservative oil price outlook. We seriously believe that a diversification plan to a non-oil economy has become a national imperative. Once again, I wish to congratulate the leadership and entire members of NAPE for this event, and thank you for the honor and opportunity accorded me to address the professionals in this industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Minister. I had already said before you came that I had smelt the food, so it is sweet. And thank you very, thank you very much for all the richness of information, a lot of clarification, but actually most welcoming in the point of, from the point of even your starting, you are actually really, this is really the first time we're actually putting oil and gas very well within the context of the energy space. Is it because really the whole mix is competing in one form or the other? And the earlier, like you say, we actually, your word, you say we should it's a wake-up call to renew not just oil and gas, but actually to renew our energy policy as a nation, as well as the framework. Thank you so very much for that. So some of the key things I also, big highlights that we are really expecting, and you've actually said it, flexibility in terms of grandfathering of existing terms, excellent stuff, attractive and competitive terms, sustainable and shared prosperity. I mean, this is great, especially for host communities, knowing exactly where we're coming from and what is happening today. Electricity, gas. We have it, but we haven't been able to crack it. But it's pretty clear now from the points you actually really raised in terms of higher pricing framework, probably lower royalties and taxes, actually really strategically replacing liquid petroleum, really for gas, from CNG, from LPG, and just like you say, gas-based industries, complete revitalization. And actually then really looking at growth, because we're actually really talking about it before you came, looking at growth across the value chain. But even in the long term in future, really, what will non-oil economy be to Nigeria? Thank you so very much, Honorable Minister. There's still quite a few more questions that are coming from all the people that actually, but maybe let me just start with one, since you actually teed off from really defining a post-COVID. Quite a lot of people have always been thinking that a post-COVID will be probably maybe in September or October. But thank you so very much for being really graphic about it, that COVID may actually be with us for a fairly very long time. Now, given that, and given the fact also that COVID is affecting every nation, it's affecting every business, coming back home, is even affecting the oil and gas sector itself, because quite a lot of operators are bleeding in one form or the other. So the thing I really wanted to then ask is, given the importance of the sector to the Nigerian economy, and the fact that the operators are struggling in one form, especially the independents, is the Honorable Minister thinking of some form of cushioning or some form of palliatives, you know, tangible or otherwise, apart from even what is going to come from the fiscal bill itself or generality of the PIB, some kind of palliatives for the sector? Is the Honorable Minister thinking around that?
Well, I think, like you said, I mean, the COVID problem is affecting all of us. And, you know, in this situation, we have the doctors are also being affected. The patients are also being affected. So sometimes when you ask the doctor if you have any way of supporting us, the doctors also have to be careful so that they don't lose their life in the process of supporting you. So in this kind of situation, that's just on the lighter note. But as a government, we are not also in the best frame, best shape at this point. Our earnings are also completely reducing due to COVID. So we are not in the best position right now to also support in more positive terms. But for us, the easier way to support is to make sure that the fiscal terms, the framework around your operational environment is actually eased off so that at least you can operate better. And unfortunately, these are not things we can do by fiat most of the time. It only comes by way of our law and the regulations. DPRO is also looking at reviewing some regulations so that at least it will make things easier for operators. But I think the most important support for the industry, I believe, will come from the PIB. Because, I mean, the PIB is taking everything holistically into consideration to ensure that at least operators will have the best terms available. We're looking at the global environment as a very competitive environment now in the oil and gas sector, and we want to ensure that Nigeria continues to be one of the destinations of choice, and that's why we will ensure that the PIB is as competitive and at least easy on the industry as much as possible.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And I'm sure you would like to also say something about timelines for the PIB itself, as broad as you know it today, so that again the industry can begin to warm up and prepare for that. So if you take that as question one, which is timeline, basically. The second thing, okay, all right, go ahead, Honorable Minister.
No, it's okay. Okay, if you want to conclude. But anyway, timeline, it's always a difficult question because this is something that has to do with the National Assembly. I can give you timelines as it relates to what we are doing, but when it gets to the National Assembly, can I give you timelines? I'm not very sure because, I mean, it is up to the National Assembly. But for us, I will tell you very confidently that we have finished our job. The drafting process is concluded. We have discussed with some relevant industry operators as well. At this point, what is happening, the Ministry of Justice was looking at the draft again to ensure that it is not in conflict with the existing laws in the country. And even that process has now been concluded. So in the coming few days, we have requested the National Assembly to see if they can even reconvene during their recess to accept the PIB. If that happens, the PIB should be with them within the next few weeks. And then after that, frankly, I cannot say how long it's going to stay with the National Assembly. And I'm sure you understand that.
Like we have some data. Okay, we can hear you now, Honorable Minister.
Oh, you were not hearing me before?
You lost the last 30 seconds, just the last 30 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was saying, I don't know what you heard last, but I was saying.
The Ministry of Justice.
Yes, okay, yes, it's already, the Ministry of Justice has already done its job. It has aligned it with existing legislation, and it's now out of the Ministry of Justice. So in the coming weeks, we are expecting to engage the National Assembly to reconvene, especially just to receive the PIB because of the national importance of this piece of law. And of course, after that, frankly, I cannot give you any more timelines because it will be the call of the National Assembly. And you understand that I am not in a position to tell you how long it is going to stay in the National Assembly. But my understanding from all the consultations we have had with them is that they are going to look at it expeditiously. I do not think that it's going to stay for more than, I'm just trying to be very excessive in my estimation. I don't think it will be more than 6 months in the National Assembly.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And we really clearly note the fact that you can only put timing on your own side of the equation. Thank you very much. But this certainly gladdens our hearts that at least the bill is actually at the end of the executive stage and basically almost ready for transmission to the National Assembly. There are two questions here, Honorable Minister, on gas. Basically, the first is around pipelines, and what has been asked is that will monopoly of pipeline construction generally be just left with NNPC, basically asking, do we have all the fiscal levers within the bill that will actually allow for open, if you like, open investment in that direction? The second one then is touching on pricing, which you touched on. And the point is what's the position of the bill on pricing? Will it be dollar-based or dollar-linked?
On the first question of monopoly, that's what the bill is trying to abolish. We do not want monopoly in any sector. So the bill is going to definitely open up the sector and democratize the sector and allow any investor that wants to invest in this sector. As yet, you know that the midstream is really non-existent in Nigeria. But this bill is actually targeted at encouraging the development of the midstream to ensure that people can build pipelines and own pipelines and be able to charge. To achieve this, you know that we launched the gas network code a few days ago and so on. All this will support the democratization of the midstream. And I want to assure you that we are not going to promote any monopolies at all. If the monopolies exist now, they will soon not exist because, you know that at this point, there are only few operators in that sector. So you cannot even call it a monopoly, but because they are the only investors in that sector, they are the only people who are operating. But soon, I've already started receiving a lot of interest in participating in this very important sector. And I believe that this sector will open up new vistas for the oil industry. Whether the gas pricing, domestic gas pricing will be dollar-based or naira-based, the thing about the industry in general is that it's a dollar-based industry, more or less. It's an international industry. The input is mostly dollar-based. Most of the investment is dollar-based, and that's why we tend to price things in dollars in this industry. But of course, we can take a second look at it because frankly, maybe we haven't taken this critical look. Since you have raised this as a question, I would like to take it up again and see whether there could be some kind of possibility of also paying in Naira and paying in dollar.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Minister, for actually being open to that. And thank God that at least we still have the process of legislative work by the National Assembly, so that, I mean, if there's any little bit of pieces to still do on that, I think that certainly will happen. Costs. And it didn't come out too much from your address, Honorable Minister, but I know very well there was a big dosage of cost consideration in actually working the PIB. And the question is how will the bill itself position Nigeria now to compete with all other low-cost producers, given exactly the dynamics we are seeing, of course, amongst even your friends, OPEC Plus, and all the other people around the world?
As I said in my speech, I mean, we are very mindful of this. This is something we are very mindful of. We looked at other jurisdictions that we feel are a competition to this country. We were very mindful of that. And I want to show you that we believe that the PIB will make us one of the most attractive destinations, even among those who we think are our competition.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Lateef, from your side, do you have one or two other ones so that...
Good day, Honorable Minister. Again, this is Lateef, Publicity Secretary for NAPE. We have a lot of questions for you, and again, we thank you for being here. Knowing fully well that the world globally is going greener. You mentioned this in your speech. It's all over the world. Things have to go greener for the economy, for the country, and for the world. I have Tony Acme. Tony's question goes as such. Most international oil companies are moving towards carbon neutrality by 2050. And others are driving towards a move away from fossil fuel. Is there a clear strategy by the government to address these potential challenges in the Nigerian oil and gas sector vis-a-vis the improvement and stability of the fiscal regime? I'm going to lump three questions together so that you can get that off the plate. So the next question is by a past president of NAPE and a fellow of NAPE, Mr. Victor Agbet Davies. Is the national pipeline grid still on the table to help distribution and carry gas to distant gas turbine stations?
National what?
And the national pipeline grid still on the table to help with distribution and evacuation of gas to distant gas turbine stations. Then we have Victoria Okefe. Your presentation is insightful, etc., a lot of praises. We have been on PIB for so long before your tenure, sir. When exactly are we going to get the PIB? I think you've spoken to this already.
Yeah, we did.
So let me allow you to address this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The issue of green energy is something that I believe that as a country, we must discuss very cautiously, because we all agree that we don't have the funding for the capacity to fund the research that we need to put in. Recently, we are hearing the European Union voting up to 1 trillion euros for renewable energy. Those sums do not exist with us, and we all know that. So that's why I say we have to be cautious. You know, when people try to import all kinds of ideas, we have to see the reality on ground. I personally believe that we are not in that position. We cannot participate in that race at this moment because we are not financially strong enough. I'm not talking about mentally, but financially. But one of the ways we can participate in cleaner energies, as far as I'm concerned, is to move to gas, which is a cleaner fuel, at least cleaner than the liquids, the crude oil. So I believe that we should first develop gas, because right now we are talking about a situation where the world's more than 500,000 people in the world without access to energy are living in Africa. We're dealing with a very dire situation here. How do we get energy to these people? We cannot possibly get energy to these people through renewable energy. It has to be through what we have now. We have crude oil, we have gas. How do we develop this gas to be able to develop the base load of energy for our people first, before we join those very high discussions about renewable energy? So I believe that right now we should focus as a people and as a country on the development of our gas resources, which we know we have in abundance. Having said that, I would like companies, industry participants, to also try to see how they can fund research into renewable energy. If you go globally, most of the research into renewable energy is being funded by oil companies. Why not here? Why are our people, our industry operators, not the ones funding this research, so that at least we can get there when the time finally arrives? You talked about the national grid, pipeline grid. What we are now trying to enable is for people, for individual investors to take over the midstream. So if you are saying that, this is going to be a commercial consideration, completely commercial consideration now. Even as a country, you know that we are moving, with the PIB, we are moving to commercializing NNPC. So if it is commercially viable, NNPC or the national grid will continue. But if it is also commercially viable, it is now an opportunity for private sector investors to develop that grid. That's what we are saying here. That's the opportunity that we are opening up. So it is no longer a government prerogative to build the national grid. The opportunity will now be provided for people to build this grid and make money from it. These are big opportunities that are coming, and we should understand the import of the opportunity that we are actually providing to Nigeria as government. So I will not say that the national pipeline grid is out of the table, because if it's a commercial, since it's a commercial consideration, people can, NNPC can sit back now and say, well, we still want to build this because it's commercially very viable and good for us. But it is also open to anybody, any investor who wants to invest in developing the pipelines in Nigeria now. The third question, as you said, I have already touched on the PIB. Of course, I have given the timelines already. It's been a very long piece of law in the making. The PIB started working on it. In fact, some say 2000, some say 2003. It's been a long time. But for me, that is also very instructive. It tells us that when it is finally passed, it will be a stable fiscal framework, and nobody is going to be thinking about changing the laws in the next few years. If it has taken this country almost 20 years to get to the end of amending or passing a law, or a PIB, then you can imagine nobody would like to attempt it anymore. So this is going to be a very stable fiscal environment when it is actually passed, and it will be passed very soon, I can tell you. I have given some timeline. I am a little bit worried about repeating those timelines because it doesn't involve me alone. It doesn't involve us alone in the executive. It involves also the legislature. So I would not want to repeat those time frames anymore. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Just a quick, sorry, Mr. Austin, just to that specific.
One more. All right. Thank you.
Just a follow up to that specific last statement. Whichever way it goes, the environment in which we work in constantly changes, and there will be need to do an update or an amendment. Have you put any provisions in there to ensure that subsequent updates will be completed in less than a year? Because we definitely cannot afford this level of uncertainty for about 2 decades.
I agree with you. That's why what we have done is to make provisions for regulations within the law. Those regulations can always change with time, but the passage and the amendment of laws are not easy. And it is better that they are not easy. If it is something that is so easy, then you see that it will bring a lot of uncertainty into the environment. And that's why it is even better that it is not easy, that anybody can go to the National Assembly and change the law the next day. So I cannot tell you that it will be easy to change the law at any time, but the regulations within the law can be changed and can be tweaked as situations demand.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Minister. I'm sure we will let you go very quickly because we know we are coming from another meeting. But just one more question. I mean, late last year, you rolled out these 9 strategic objectives for the year. And one of the key ones, especially for the upstream side, was for you to put in place mechanisms to increase crude oil production capacity to 3 million barrels per day. And so we guess that probably one of the mechanisms for that was, of course, the marginal field bid rounds, which has thrown up like 57 marginal fields for bidding. Now, there are 2 other questions under that. The first is that you also talked at some point in time that you were going to do some block allocation. It would be nice to know what time you are thinking. But secondly, specific on these ongoing marginal field bid rounds, given this very stringent time now in the new guidelines to bring fields into development and production, what incentives does the PIB offer for small fields operators?
Well, thank you very much. Of course, it's one of my mandates, the mandate of the Ministry of Petroleum, to take the crude oil production from where we are to 3 million barrels. And I believe that we are doing very well. Unfortunately, the pandemic has not helped us very much. And then the cuts, OPEC cuts that the pandemic has also occasioned, has not helped us very much in this direction. But of course, as you know, as you said already, the marginal field round is one of the actions in that direction. And we are also we are working on new projects, Bonga Southwest and so on. All those projects, when they come on stream, will add to our national production and add to our race towards achieving at least 3 million barrels per day. I already said that there will be a lot of incentive for small producers in the PIB. I don't want to go into specific sections because you cannot be quoting a law that has not been passed. But frankly, we have incentives for smaller producers because we believe that that has other spin-offs for us as well. Much as it adds to the national production, the marginal field program also helps to develop local capacity, which we do need urgently in Nigeria. Especially the pandemic has taught us to develop local capacity. You yourself said here that some expatriates are leaving Nigeria, are being evacuated and so on. So we don't know, we have to prepare for any eventuality in the future and ensure that local capacity is developed. Yes, I agree. I mentioned that we're going to have a major bid round after the marginal field round. The marginal field round is like the tip of the iceberg to try to, like the appetizer. And then the major bid round will come. But the major bid round will only come after the PIB because we want major interest as well. Because without a PIB, without the fiscal environment that people can relate to, we may not get the kind of strong interest that we expect to have. And that's why we have kept that, and we want to ensure that the PIB is passed first before the major bid round will commence.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Minister, and we fully resonate with that. And wrapping up, and you have at least 3 to 5 minutes to just give us your parting shot.
Before he does that, sir, if you don't mind, my special guest moderator, because we have like, I know you have a tight schedule, Honorable Minister. We have about 47 questions. We know you cannot take all those questions. But what we'll do is this. A lot of people, even the presidency, I'm sure they want you. But let's see how many of them we can do a Russia roulette on. So a quick one on the PIB, quick, fast, so we'll make it rapid fire. How many regulators, as you know, right now, will be in the new PIB? How many regulators are they expected? So I don't know if that's something you can quickly do. From Mr. Tunya Kyosho, are there plans to reduce royalty in onshore and shallow water? Because this is very big for the independent and Nigeria operators. So those 2 quick questions, and I jump to another 2, and then we close out.
The only thing I will say at this point, and please excuse me, I do not want to make the mistake of degenerating into discussing the PIB here, especially since it has not been submitted to the National Assembly. Let us try and be patient. When we present it to the National Assembly, it will then be in the public domain. I just gave you some tips so that you have an idea. But the whole idea was not to present the PIB for discussion here at this forum, because I might be offending some people and then they might, we might be offending the National Assembly, and we may pay dearly for it.
That's fine, sir. So quickly skipping that, we do have challenges with respect to security, especially in our operating areas, whether it be onshore, swamp, shallow water. Clement Chukwuka is asking, operators in Nigeria spend between 4 to 5 times more than their global peers in the area of operating because of just this specific challenge. What are your thoughts around that?
Frankly, this is something that is very touching and very emotional for me, because I happen to be from the environment. It's a very sad thing. This is not what it should be, and it wasn't always so. Unfortunately, a few developments in our environment has promoted this, and it has become intractable. We have been unable to get over with it. One of the things I would like to say is that a lot of money is being spent that is not related, that has no link with the security situation. I'm the first to agree that we are spending too much money as a country. A lot of money is spent through NDDC. And all that money that is being spent through NDDC is expected to go towards stabilizing the operating environment. But do the NDDC person, the person sitting in NDDC, does he see himself as something that has a relationship with the oil industry? I don't think so. They just go ahead and they spend the money. There is no link between what is happening in NDDC and what is happening in the industry. And companies are contributing. So, just wait a minute, I'm making some points. So I know that monies are being spent. I mean, federal government is spending money on the amnesty program, but the man in amnesty, does he really have an idea that the money that is being spent on amnesty must or should be related with what is happening in the oil production sector? I don't think he thinks so. He just carries on with the amnesty program as if it's so. You find that what we need to build are linkages. In this industry, we must begin to build linkages, and then the oil companies are spending a lot of money on their own to secure themselves and charging it to secure to the operational cost. So it is really not. It is not just for you. The problem is government itself is suffering a double jeopardy because we are spending on the NDD side, spending on the amnesty side, and then the companies are charging all their security expenditure also to government. So we are losing on all sides. So this is something that is more of concern to government than even yourself. So we must come together as industry to really look at these issues and come up with solutions, sustainable solutions to these issues. And I'm happy that you mentioned this. Thank you.
And the final question I will ask, I apologize to everybody so I can hand over, is you've christened this year as Year of Gas. Everybody knows that for the minister, this is the year of gas. When is the likely gas commercialization process going to be concluded?
I will assure you that it will be completed this year. We have gone very far with it. If you are participating in the process, you will know that we have gone very far with the process, and we will conclude it within this year.
Thank you.
Right, over to you, Mr. Austin. Thank you. My honorable minister. Okay, your time.
Thank you. I think all that is.
Are you through with me?
No, sir.
No, we are not, but we
are through with me, sir. I thought
your people are saying you have to go, you have to go. My phone has blown up. The second one is about to blow up, so we have to let you go. We would like your parting shot, sir.
Well, I like this engagement. I've always believed that it is the collaboration of industry and government that will move this industry further. And it's important. That's why I made sure that when I was invited, I attended. I would like us to see ourselves as one, industry and us from this side. We should see ourselves as one and begin to find solutions to our problems, solutions to our security problems, solutions to R&D issues, because we need to do more R&D in Nigeria so that we can take control of our own destiny, because everything as it is now is from outside. We must become more productive, begin to get more involved in the process of resolving our own problem. And it is only a coming together of all of us that can achieve it. And I'm really happy that you have provided this forum. I will continue to be available to you, and we can always exchange ideas to ensure that this industry is moved forward and Nigeria moves further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President. Okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We certainly will anchor on the fact that you'll be very happy and willing to continue this engagement, especially this is your constituency. This is the oil and gas set of people. We really appreciate your leadership and setting clear direction, completing this PIB finally. All the insights, all the clarification this morning, as well as some very little expo that you even released, and we hope that all that will be passed by the National Assembly. Thank you very much. So let me hand you Now over to Latif as we wrap up. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
All right, so Honorable Minister, I introduce to you our President, Mr. Alex Nachi Taka, a fellow of NAPE, to share our appreciation. Over to you, Mr. President.
Good afternoon, my own minister. We sincerely appreciate, on behalf of NAPE Executive and the entire membership, your acceptance to speak to us this August month as an August guest. We are very excited. So many people have been looking for this opportunity. We're happy you've given it to us. I want to pick one of the key points out of the discussion, that we need to secure the future of our nation, and that the pandemic and all the challenges are a wake-up call. We have taken that up. We promise to work very closely with you and the entire cooperation around you to make sure we are able to secure our nation without additional reserves, no matter what is going to happen to crude oil in the future. Our reserves need to continuously be added. That is our area of specialty. We want to assure you, as the key experts in reserve addition, we continue to do our best to support you and to make sure you succeed. We appreciate your time. We know how crowded your schedule has been. We're very excited for the key things that have been worrying our members and the way you've handled them this afternoon. We continue to work together. We continue to seek to hear from you from time to time. And as soon as the COVID is fully down, we assure you of a visit right at Abuja to rub minds. We appreciate your time with us for today and all that you have responded with respect to questions. We highly appreciate you and the achievements being recorded under your leadership. They're very visible, and we're very proud to have you at this period serving as the Minister of State in charge of the oil and gas industry. We appreciate you, sir. We thank you. The rest of the activities you have for today and the rest of the week and the rest of the year, we want to assure you we continue to be there to give every support needed from NAPE. Thank you very much.
My President, Mr. Bashir, the sponsor for the day, sir.
We also appreciate the sponsorship for today, Damatan, for finding it worthy to sponsor today's event. We appreciate the moderator for today. We appreciate the team of experts, the STA to the Honorable Minister of State, who has been behind this very seriously. We appreciate the PE with the entire media team for putting this together. The PE, the PS. We appreciate the staff of NAPE Secretariat and the entire distinguished participants that have made time to be a part of this history for today. Very topical issue, well handled, and we highly appreciate. Above all, I want to sincerely thank the management of NNPC and the entire staff for this huge support that have been given to NAPE under my leadership. Without the support from your constituency, it's usually very difficult to serve. I don't take any of this for granted. I appreciate my GMD. I appreciate the entire colleagues from the NNPC as a corporation. Thank you for a successful outing. We are very excited about today's event, and we look forward to having you at subsequent events for the remaining part of the year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, sir. Are you bring back to what? No, I already excused myself.
Right. The MD, CEO, Damata Nigeria Limited, you have your sponsor's remarks, sir.
Okay, thank you, Latif. It's been a pleasure sponsoring this NAPE session. And we're so happy that it was this particular session that we sponsored this year, given the Honorable Minister's, what I would say, good news for the industry in terms of what is currently being done, as well as what we should expect. As usual, at Damatan, we're happy to always work with NAPE to bring these issues that affect the industry into public view. Thank you for, excuse me, for organizing this, and we will be glad to do this again and again. Thank you, Latif. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much. A word from Damatan Nigeria Limited. Again, my president, the moderator is there. We thank you, Mr. Austin Olorenshola, for your insights, being one of those that have contributed significantly to the PIB bill. I'm sure you're very glad it's finally going to see the day of light. It's going to have its time in the sun. Mr. President, I think it's time for us to just do some quick announcements before we wrap up for the day. But we would like to let you say a word or two for the moderator, so he can also excuse himself.
Yeah. Once again, good afternoon, sir. We thank you, sir, for making time to be a part of the history we made today. On behalf of NAPE Executive, the entire membership which you are a part, we're very proud of your contributions to the industry. There was no better person we felt could have handled the event of today in terms of moderating. We specifically pick on you, and in spite of that schedule, you were able to make time for us. We continue to work together to see some of these very sensitive government bills out. We continue to give our support. We appreciate your time, your contribution, even outside the event of today. We're very grateful for what you are doing, and we continue to support ourselves. We maintain the linkages, the synergy, and we collaborate to make sure we help government in the little way we can for the sake of this industry and over 200 million Nigerians, because the ideas of NAPE find oil and gas, which significantly runs the economy of the nation. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the
Thank you.
As usual.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Bye, boss. So next, we'll just take some quick announcements. We are way over time. We apologize to our audience. I think we'll just dive into this again and again. We cannot tell you how happy and pleased we are to talk about this. It's the NAPE conference. We are going virtual. It's going to be the chairperson for the conference planning committee, the president-elect, Mrs. Pato Chobu. A lot of efforts and a lot of innovation is going to be on display. We would welcome everybody's participation. Registration has commenced. Please join us to become the pace setter in the industry. This will be the first largest oil and gas conference that is going to be virtual, and it can only be successful with your help. So we welcome and encourage everybody to register and participate. Everything will be available, including exhibition, a field trip, and other special programs like the management special session, the conference workshop, and other key events where appropriate stakeholders will engage. At this point, because we are really way behind time, I will hand over to the President to give his vote of thanks. Again, thank you very much, everybody, and have a nice day. Over to you, Mr. President.
Yeah. Good afternoon once again. On behalf of the NAPE Executive Committee and the entire membership, we want to sincerely appreciate each and every participant, organizers, starting with the PE, PS, and the media team, the staff of NAPE Secretariat that have done so much to get us to here, the participants, distinguished participants. Without you, we wouldn't have been able to achieve much. We won't be able to talk to ourselves. I repeat by appreciating our Honorable Minister for making time to be with us in spite of his task schedule, his STA that is in the engine room. I appreciate my GMD, the GMD of NNPC, and the entire management and staff from my constituency for the level of support I received since my inauguration into office, which has assisted in achieving so much in spite of the global challenges. We are forging ahead because of that support. I appreciate the support from the executive committee. I saw more than 10 executive members at this meeting. That's a good number. I appreciate each and every one for being a part of the history made today. We look forward to having you at our subsequent events up to the conference that will round up the year. It's going to be virtual, it's going to be historical. Please just make time to be a part of history. Thank you once again. Have a blessed day, memorable weekend ahead.